I'm finally putting part 2 of Who the Fuck is Jojo out. It took a while because I had some little mini hangovers about the fact that I was sharing so much, because we move into stuff that I don't talk about with anyone, not even my therapist. It's going to be, who wants to even know this stuff about me, really? But it doesn't matter, because the whole point is not to be a hypocrite. When they tell me their stories, I don't want to be the person that hasn't done it as well, because otherwise that's not really fair to ask people to open up to me and not do the same in kind. So this is part 2. We're going a little bit deeper. It's a fucking therapy session is what it is. But we're going a little bit deeper. It was fun. I'll probably go and hide for a couple of weeks now once I put this out. Any questions, comments, or feedback, just keep it kind while I go and hide under my duvet.
If you believe you can't be loved, and you equate loving and being loved with safety, what does it feel like thinking you can't have that? Like, how? I don't want to put the words there.
It's very isolating.
It sounds really scary.
No. The being there is not scary because you're used to it.
Who keeps you safe if love is safety, but you don't deserve love?
So there's a kind of like a point where I progress into being able to have that in some ways. And then there's obviously a whole thing. I remember someone, a good friend, you'll know them, I think, who once messaged me and said that you walk around looking like you're apologizing to the world for existing. And I was like, looking back, I was like, actually, that's pretty fucking harsh. But it was true. Like, I literally can't ask for help, hyper independent, won't ask for help. I will help you though. I will roll my fucking sleeves up and we will get this done. And it's not that it was scary, it was isolating, it's lonely. You're missing out. You're watching the world happen and you're missing out. You're missing out. Or at least eventually you don't even realize you're missing out. You're just existing. And it's limiting. It's sad. It's sad. And then I got, when was it? I distinctly remember, because I remember someone saying to me, so a woman I met on an app, and we went out on a couple of non-dates because I think we'd come to the conclusion she wasn't actually over her ex or something like that. So we'd got a very nice person, very, very smart, good looking, all these things. Very kind, gentle person. Where am I going with that?
Non-dates.
And I keep losing my train of thought. That's how, no, I don't know. That's probably my brain trying to shut down, going, don't go there. But around that time, I was dating two people, like her kind of thing, and someone else. Ultimately didn't pursue anything with this other person. I went with this other person that was closer. That didn't work out. Shocker. Spoiler. But it didn't work out. But at that point, I started to my mental health really started to decline. I was a debt collector, hated it. It was destroying my soul. I was there for like 3 years. It was destroying me. No, because it was like, you see the like, just these things. And it was killing me because I felt separate from people I was working with anyway. I wasn't comfortable in my body. I didn't wake up wanting to go to work. I wasn't driven. I didn't love anything. And then I would find myself staring at the wall or something for 45 minutes. I was like, oh, I am not okay. I ended up having some time off work for mental health. And that eventually, that became kind of the turning point for me to start, because I was a very victim mentality. Everything happened to me. It was my parents' fault all the time. I'm the way I am. This is just who I am, which I absolutely hate that sentence. And it was a turning point. I quit my job, moved into my mum's, and went back to college. I had no money. Like, there was no plan. I was going to university, fuck this shit. And I was like 27, I think. So a year at college to get an access course to go to university. And when I got to university, I remember sitting in my room, falling down a TED Talk rabbit hole. And to go back quickly to set the scene is that this woman that I was on the non-dates, when I was in Bournemouth, she had come over and we'd hung out and stuff. And she had mentioned that I hated people, which I thought to be true. I didn't like people. And I was like, yeah, I don't like people. That's generally how I operated. And then I watched this TED Talk by Brené Brown, her first one. And I tell you what, I could have reached through the screen. I could have slapped her. I could have throat punched her. I could have said, shut your mouth. Because she went into this whole connection and she was like, we are fundamentally designed to be connected to people and this, that, and the other. We need other people. And I was like, how dare you? That is not how I operate. But how am I going to be happy and become better version of me? And she's like literally saying to me, this is what you have to do. And I was like, cunt, for fuck's sake. And so that was 2013. And since then, which is 10 years worth of work to get to the point where now I can accept love and care and words of encouragement and things from my friends. It's taken me that long. And so I'm just hoping that this next phase doesn't take so long, because I don't want to be in my turning 50 by the time I get into an intimate relationship, romantic relationship. But it's been a long journey. Like, there's no kind of like before and after. It's been a slow burn into this accepting that I am actually worthy of people caring about me and loving me. And I am actually good at things and I am worth it and all these things. But the relationship part, the intimate, it's almost like the last bit. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's this last part of the journey.
Hardest bit as well, though, isn't it? So it makes sense that it's the last bit.
Yeah. So I've been chipping away. And this is the next bit. And what will it feel like to love that person and to receive love from that person? No idea. I imagine, based on what other people have said, there is that theme of safety to be who you are and to communicate. And I know I'll fuck up, obviously. And it is really scary. It's really scary. It was a long story.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
I think it will be scary to be in that position and to be there. And it's weird because it's this thing that so many people experience as safe, and safety is actually the scariest thing as well, which is, why you're kind of leaving it to last on this long journey, because I mean, we've seen the effects of when it goes wrong. It is scary. Like, it can impact a lot. But for it to go wrong, there also needs to be the intimacy has to already exist there. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think you said it before in a conversation about, to get a high reward, it's got to be high risk.
High risk, high reward. Yeah. That's how you categorize intimacy. It's like the top level of connection with other humans. High risk, high reward. But it's good when it's good, but when
I was going to say it's good as good, but I think Bryn said something that was really true in that, can you be with someone in the mundane?
Well, I was going to say, how many people do you think actually experience true intimacy in their relationships?
Well, conversations I've had, interesting enough, that some people will, because they've heard the conversations or whatever, they'll have a conversation with me, the books. And it's really interesting. I think you can see when you really sit with somebody and listen to them, you can see if they are or not. There are some people that, I think, because there's this whole thing about, one thing that pisses me off is that people talk about how a certain way is the right way.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You must do these things.
Yeah.
You must feel these things. They must do this for you. And that's it. And then they like, why are you not doing this? And that is a thing that I see as well, which switches me off from people, is like when it comes to sex. It's a big thing for me because I've never really I never have really talked about sex because I feel shame.
Why?
Interesting enough, that was the first ever part of my first ever trip.
Yeah.
Was where I had to. So in order for me to move on from each kind of like message, meaning, I had to get that message or meaning.
I feel like we could do just a whole conversation on trips and kind of what they are and how, but okay, we'll just stick to the surface of how this is working.
And that was one of the first things I had to acknowledge, was I feel shame around sex. It was really interesting because, like the whole psychedelic thing where it's all the colors and stuff, that's what it was like. It wasn't even, I hadn't got to the bit where people are fully fleshed out, all the characters and whatever.
That's so interesting.
It was very moving. Like it was whole like thing and just all different things. And I had to acknowledge that I had so much shame about sex because my first sexual experience, it wasn't bad, but I did lay there afterwards going, if this is it, I'm in trouble.
So how did that, we'll come back to that, if this is it, I'm in trouble, but how does that equate to shame?
I've internalized it, that there's something wrong with me.
So you didn't enjoy, or didn't enjoy your first time wasn't
an orgasm.
Fulfilling? I mean, do many people on their first time?
I don't fucking know. So
okay, well, I didn't on my first time.
But it
took several years.
Exactly. But this is the thing, is we're led to believe, like, you watch these TV programs and you watch, like, I watched a Netflix show the other day called Obliterated. Fucking brilliant. Unhinged chaos. It was hilarious. Okay. However, it's kind of like an unhinged version of the film Expendables.
Okay.
And love it. I love it. But you see these things and like, fuck, these people are like coming all over the place.
Oh my God. I'm reading a book at the minute. I've read it like 20 times. I love it. It's called Rachel's Holiday. It's about, I don't know if it's a series of books about an Irish family called the Walsh sisters. And this is actually really interesting. You might enjoy it. Each sister has her own book. And it's really interesting because you get to read about the sisters from each sister's point of view, but then you get to experience the sister from her point of view.
Oh, I like those. Yeah.
So you've got this picture of who the character is, and then you read her book and you're like, oh, this is totally different from the perception. And every sister has a different perception of each other. Anyway, going off on a chat, it really annoys me, sex in literature, because it's so unrealistic. And there was this, a steamy scene for this girl and the guy. The male romantic protagonist, when they had sex for the first time. And literally the words, because I just remember, I've read it like 20 times, and every time I was like, this is ridiculous. It was like, as soon as he entered me, I started to come. And I was like, no, you did not.
Me? What, has he got a magic dick?
But you didn't. Like, no. and a part of me is like, does anybody does anybody experience that? Is that because is that a thing? Is that possible?
Yeah.
Who knows? But you do read things like that. And this is just, it's not that it's smutty literature, it's just a book which has sex in it and relationships, which most female aimed books do. And can I start reading those well, I did. I started reading those probably when I was about 14, 15, just because I was reading books and whatever was there. Also, as a conversation I had last night, I started reading books about serial killers at 14. So, everything, whatever's available. But if that's what you're consuming, and we're not talking pornography, we're not talking anything really unrealistic, we're just talking, this is the only experience I have of sex because this is the only experience I have of sex. There can be a really unrealistic expectation of what sex is then supposed to be and feel like.
Yeah. I started reading because I didn't have access to books and stuff, but the internet I did. And I discovered fanfic. And I was like, free books. Free fucking books.
I've never read fanfic, but they can be a little bit like people make up. Yeah, okay.
Some of that shit. Like, when I say that Obliterated is unhinged, man, this is fucking unhinged. Some of them get fucking beyond unhinged. But some people are incredible writers, and that's how they start before they become published authors, which I think is incredible. It's a whole different thing. But I started reading fanfic when I was younger because also it was a way for me to read books, read stories that I could relate to in the fact in like women loving women fanfic.
I imagine more of that's written than that's going to be published.
Yeah. And you could read all different kinds of things, your favorite characters from a show. They'll find some way to like bring two of the characters together if there's some kind of like gay undertone.
Yeah,
I mean, some shows you watch, you're like, yeah, that would happen. And so, that was my experience because that was the only way I could get hold of anything that reflected my situation, even remotely, when it came to women only storylines.
So what did you then go into a sexual relationship with the idea of?
Even without the fanfic, watching rom-coms, watching anything, even male, female, always good sex.
And if it's not, then it's an indication the relationship's in trouble.
Yeah, always good sex, always good sex. And so I was like, okay, I didn't have this big expectation of like wanting to save myself for the perfect person. I didn't have that. I was just like, sex is sex. And so we did. It wasn't planned. And we did. And she actually asked me if I had actually lied and that I had been with other people. And I really didn't understand like why that was a question. I wasn't expecting that.
So she knew it was your first time, but thought you had lied and said it wasn't your first time.
Yeah. She thought I had been with other women.
Why?
I think maybe because I knew what I was doing.
Right.
Like, not to say that I was good, but that I knew I knew my way around.
You didn't fumble it.
Yeah. Because again, I think there's that expectation for some people that, your first time is either great or it's all like a massive fumble because you don't know what you're doing.
I think it's just average for most people.
Yeah. But it's not, what's in it? Like, you don't see that in TV and stuff. And I just lay there and I was like, fuck. It wasn't bad, but I wasn't sexually fulfilled. Because I wasn't good at communicating, it was never going to get better. I didn't communicate my needs. So that was never going to get better. And that happened subsequently with every girlfriend, is that it never got better.
So it didn't get better?
No. I do believe now that sex isn't like having an intimate relationship with somebody, there doesn't need to be an end goal of an orgasm. There doesn't. I believe that actually it doesn't.
It's a fun pastime.
It's a fun pastime, and
but
it doesn't always have to be that is the thing that you need to get to. You can have fun.
I don't think you do, but it's nice to.
Yeah, but you can have fun as well. Like that, you shouldn't have the expectation that is always going to be.
No, it's not. Otherwise, it could become very just transactional, goal oriented. Yeah, like
exactly.
Boom, boom.
And I know that now, but the next part of that is obviously having to communicate my needs and understand what I like, what I don't like.
But if you find it difficult to say, "Can you roll this ball on my back?" How are you going to say,
Exactly. So that entire time with all my sexual partners, it wasn't to say I didn't enjoy it, but it wasn't fulfilling because I couldn't communicate my needs. So in this next phase of my life, I have to do that, which is another big whole thing when it comes to finding a partner, is getting to that point, is allowing that. It's a whole thing.
It is a whole thing, and it's a whole level of intimacy. So when you say it's not fulfilling, to clarify what you mean when you say it's never been fulfilling.
I've never had an orgasm.
With a partner?
Yeah. Which I know that there's some people that pass judgment. And it's like, that whole thing.
Some people pass judgment on everything. So.
Yeah. But you know how that whole thing where like you go into the gym and everybody's looking at you and you're like, no one's looking at you. Everybody's just focused on themselves. And it's like, no, people do pass judgment.
They are looking at you. You've just got to learn not to care.
Yeah. And people do pass judgment. And that's why I've never been vocal about it, because some people are so like, yeah, I have sex like all the time. And there's someone I have in mind that and they will pass judgment if you are not like them. So what if you have a couple that are satisfied by having sex once a month?
I mean, the thing that I've learned in the last few years, and especially the thing I've learned with more and more people, is everyone, especially when it comes to romantic, intimate, sexual relationships, whatever, everyone has a different approach as to what is acceptable, what they need, what they want, which kind of does make it kind of difficult because you need to find someone who's on the same wavelength as you. I mean, in this case, that doesn't actually, no, that could be a problem for someone else, because if they could never do it, they could end up taking it on as a failing of theirs, but that is their own stuff to deal with their own therapist, which hopefully they have. But yeah, there are a million different ways that you can be in relationships, and it's really no one else's fucking business so long as you're not hurting anyone. Yeah, but unfortunately you have those that shout the loudest and they want everybody to know they're having sex all the time. And that, how like... I really don't want to know about other people having sex. I don't care.
I mean, that's the thing. But that's why I think then people don't talk about their struggles with sex.
Yeah.
That's why I've never talked about it. And it was really hard for me even to admit to my therapist.
Yeah.
Like I was literally, oh, fuck it, I'm not looking at her. I'm not looking at her.
How did you bring that up?
I did. Oh, God. I still remember where I was. I think this was during lockdown still. Could have been. And I sat, and this is after my trip, and I had conveniently left that bit out. Conveniently. I don't think anybody actually knows it other than my therapist. So congratulations. I remember sitting in my room on the floor with my laptop, and we're doing it over Zoom. And then I was just like, I just need to get this out. And I just was like so fucking tense. I was like, oh. And then I looked down because I can't look. I don't want to see her reaction whatsoever, not even in my periphery. I'm like, no. And I just need to get this out that, I have this whole thing about shame around sex, and I find it really awkward, and I never ask for my needs, and I just don't know what I'm going to do about that. And I just need to get that out. I don't want to explore it right now. Because I find that sometimes I just need to get something out, and then I'll circle back around later.
Put a pin in it and say, right, that thing.
Yeah, and she's well versed in my kind of like, I'm going to say this, but I'm going to go over here now. Bye.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of makes sense because you're being very vulnerable and asking for something.
Yeah.
But then.
Yeah. So you can imagine.
I'm not actually going to ask for it in reality.
Yeah. So you can imagine not even being able to admit that the first part of my trip to anybody, that it was about acknowledging shame in sex. Like I'm just not like good enough, not educated enough, not well versed, not anything like experienced. I've joked about this before. I'm going to need like a guidebook. I'm going to need a helpline, a video step by step, like all these things. And to be honest, my therapist is probably the most personal, the most intimate, longest relationship I've ever had. It's literally almost like maybe a month or 4 years of this work. And for me to react like that to her fucking hell. That's going to be a journey for me and the other person. Do you know what I mean? It's going to be great. It's going to be fucking brilliant.
It can happen though.
It can happen. I hope it does, but that will be a testament to who they are as well.
Mm-hmm.
If they can hold that space.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask, what's it like being in a relationship where, I mean, how many relationships have you had? I mean, it doesn't really matter, but just out of interest in terms of the amount of different experiences.
My first relationship was when I was, I want to say 17. Mm-hmm. Didn't last very long. Very kind of like friends involved, others liking others. Very quintessential teenage angst. Didn't last long. And then another one didn't last long. A couple of, like 3 or 4 months. And then at PGL, I had a relationship there, but it wasn't really a relationship. It was, she had a girlfriend, but they were up north. So it was more of like kind of relationship, sleeping together thing. Friends with benefits. Another woman who I was
losing track.
Yeah, another woman who was a kind of, they were in a relationship. We slept together a couple of times. Not proud of that at all. One night stand in Brighton. And then the really chaotic one that lasted a couple of years.
I'm interested in the chaotic one.
We can circle back. And then
a little pinboard here.
Yeah. And then, oh no, there was another one at PGL, the second season. Again, we were kind of together, but not. And there was a time limit on that because of like the end of season. We never really like communicated. It was very much sexual as well. And then, yeah, the chaotic one. And then the dating app one. And then the last one. Yeah, that's it.
And the last one to now has been?
7 years.
7 years.
7 years come March.
Okay. I mean, a question would be like, as you know, I'm going to go back to my original question that I was going to ask. And then, what's it like for you? Because we can't talk about the partners because we are not them. But what's it like for you being in a physical relationship with someone when you cannot be fulfilled? You feel like you never have been. Like, how do people react to that? And how does that impact your feelings around sex and shame?
Yeah. This is something that I actually, with my therapist, like, I actually feel really gross about it because it was very transactional for me, very much strategy, very much like, what do they need? What do they want? What's going to boost their ego? I lied.
So they didn't know?
No.
It's so interesting because the person that you talk about as who you are in relationships is not the Jojo that I know in any way, shape, or form. But we're also talking about your last relationship being 7 years ago. And you, from what I can hear, like, you've done a lot of work in that time and become a totally different person. That person, I cannot imagine you being in that situation now and lying to someone just to placate them, just to make your life easier.
Yep. Lots of fucking work. No, I lied, and it was very transactional. And what made me more so recently come to an understanding about that was because I judged someone else for it. And I was like, that's very transactional of you. Like, why are you lying to them that you're not enjoying it? You're just laying there. Because I had said this thing about, I don't understand. Like, I hear so many times about a woman just laying there, letting them get on with it because they're like, oh, fuck it, it's easier, it's more worth.
I don't understand it personally. But...
Yeah, it's easier just to do that rather than the argument. And I was like, what? But you're lying. And why are you allowing that? Like, what? I don't understand. And then I was like, I'm being really judgmental about something that I did in a way. Or actively lied. Like, it's not that I didn't enjoy having sex with them. Some of them I was addicted to being physically with them.
That's
They had a
interesting.
really hot body. It's because they had a really hot body. Really hot. And yeah. And yeah, I realized that was kind of gross of me. And it is gross of me because whether they realized it or not, I don't know. But I did. I mean,
you can tell when a woman does and when she doesn't.
But then if they're emotionally not really like totally there as well, they're not quite aware. I don't know. I can't speak for them. But yeah, it's kind of gross because
you really say, like, you really prejudge things that you say, or you very quickly judge things after. It's really gross. What's really gross? Why is it really gross?
No, I feel really gross for it because of the fact that I've judged other people for that same thing when I've done it.
It's human to judge a little bit.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But just for me, that is. I had no one to like do the right and run thing as a kid. I had to regulate myself. So obviously I became quite the critic.
Hugely critical.
Huge. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's not like I didn't enjoy it. I'm not going to say the next bit.
Say it.
But some of the women I really enjoyed having sex with, but I just could never get my brain to switch off to enjoy it and to embrace it.
Do you know what, though? That could also be ADHD.
Yeah. Could be.
That's definitely been a conversation that has been had.
Yeah. But do you know what I mean? I couldn't get my brain to switch off. Okay, like what? I don't even know. I couldn't even. It's been so long. I couldn't tell you what I was thinking about. But my brain is not switching off. I'm thinking about whatever. And so I've never been fully present. But I'm also thinking about making sure I look like I'm present, making sure I look like I enjoy it.
So what you were saying before, you were like, you were saying that you weren't good at asking for what you wanted and what you needed. But this conversation here isn't sounding like it was about what you wanted and what you needed. It was about you and how you, because I mean, it takes a lot of work, but like there's a lot of concentration that goes into it. I personally find anyway, like if I was just to think about like the housework or work, no way would that happen for me. Like, you got to think about it.
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily about asking someone else to do something differently. As long as they're down the right track. It's more about myself. So then what's, say the next time you're in that situation with someone, have you learned how, what? Actually, there's several questions. One, have you learned how to ask what you need? Are you comfortable with that? Are you not comfortable with that? Do you know what you need now if the situations you had in the past were not fulfilling? And the fuck do you do with your brain?
Yeah. So are we talking sexually?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I know this is about love, but we are talking sex.
Yeah, but
that's fine. I think the two come hand in hand.
No, they do, because I think that there is an emphasis on it because some people aren't sexually, like they don't have a high sex drive, medium sex drive, low sex drive that's non-existent. And that is a point of potential contention within a relationship. Because if you're on two different wavelengths, how do you compromise? There was a good book that I read actually by Emily Nagoski, Come Undone, which talked about that. I haven't read it for a while. I probably need to again. I don't know what I want. I don't know to ask for it because I'm not in that. I haven't been in that position to do that yet. So that's why it's a whole different phase that I've got to go into of being uncomfortable. And it's going to be uncomfortable. I'm going to literally feel physically, like I'm going to physically react to that. Like based on the way that I've had to say something to my therapist or asked for a hug, I tense up and I look at the ground, and it's a very childlike thing to do. And you're bracing for rejection. So yeah, which means that I do, it's not going to be something that, if I jump into it, fine. But I think for me, it's definitely going to have to be something where there's communication already. But yeah, I don't know. These are the things that are unknown to me right now. Hopefully before I'm 40.
I realized we had this conversation, didn't It's interesting how you say it's very childlike, because that's exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even very childlike. It is you going into your child. It is you being little Jojo and going, I am not worthy, I am not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
How does it feel in that moment when you're sitting there? I mean, you can't, unless you can see the video, you can't see it, but like, she was kind of, I can picture your hands being scrunched up, like shoulders high, face down, almost kind of like red with embarrassment. I'm not going to look at you, no eye contact, I need. Like, how does that physically manifest? What are the feelings of that? What goes through you that takes you out of being adult grown up Jojo to being that?
I think because it's a very physical manifestation for me rather than feelings as such. So even as I've spoken before with you actually about talking to my therapist, I won't speak to her face on. I will speak to her with me side on. So I can't see her. And I think actually that, you know how like those driving conversations, people end up in deep conversations while driving.
So good, aren't they? Because you're not face to face.
You're not face to face. You don't see their reactions. So you're not hindered by that. And so for me, that is very much like a thing, but also embracing myself for rejection, because I'm bracing myself for the unknown, because I haven't asked for these things. And the last time I asked for these things, or in some cases, I was kind of mocked, whether they meant to or not. They were just emotionally too young. They were too young. And so I'm bracing myself, defending, like, is this, is it good? Like, and then, yeah. And because that's how deep it goes. I know there's going to be people listening to this going, get the fuck over yourself.
No.
So what? Yeah. So what? Your mum and dad didn't love you the way you did. But.
Excuse me.
Actually, they'll probably find that they have the same problem.
You've just gone into something. You're very good at just discounting everything and overthinking it and going, yeah, but and I'm terrible. And you've just gone into a really nice self-reflective moment of recognizing that your basic needs go back to you not being given what every child deserves as a child, and the idea of asking that and being denied it being terrifying and almost like a tiny little death. Like it's a threat to your survival. And then immediately counteracted it with
Yeah.
Stop it.
It's again, but as you can see, that's like a defense mechanism,
exactly, but like
external.
That's your intimacy there. That's your vulnerability.
Yeah. And so you can see how much work.
But let it exist there.
Yeah. But you can see how much work I've had to do. And that's like 10 years of realizing, thanks Brené Brown, bitch, of what I needed to do and how long it's taken me to get to this point. So the people that knew me when I was like 17 will not know me now. It's generally the same for most people. I'm a complete 180 of that person. But there's just, there's still things that I need to do, that I need to experience and put myself in those situations. And what I've learned from people, talking to people, is that people can be in relationships for a long time and still not do that.
Oh, absolutely.
And I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that person that's in a relationship and a couple of years later is like, what am I doing? I want to have a relationship that is open and generally honest and safe, like a safe space. I want to be in a relationship where I do look forward to them coming home, that I actually smile at the thought of them coming home. Because I, again, was never like that with any of my girlfriends. I was never excited about them coming home. Like we lived together. Never had that. I've never experienced living with someone. Yeah, I'm going to fuck up. As are they. But it's what happens when you do. Like, you don't just go, well, fuck it then, that didn't work, bye. Like, it's to work for it. I don't know what that's like. And that's why, I think part of this, like having conversations, is obviously a way for me to intellectualize everything, because it can constantly. But I'm a thinker. and I have to think about things a lot. Then I verbalize, like, out loud. And then that's why my 2 psychedelic trips have been
Yeah,
where
but
I've
then
had, like, actual people to, like, talk to. So, you know, like in Disney films where the main character has like a pet or someone, like a
yeah,
psychic. Yeah. So mine were, in my first trip, mine were 2 snakes. Fucking hilarious. Psychics bouncing off of them because I need to say something out loud.
but I did have a point that I wanted to make, which is you were saying that you are an overthinker
Mm.
and then you verbalize. And, you know, I say that's very, very true. But are you giving the space to feel?
That's where it all comes undone.
Because, again, we kind of had that moment where you said something that, you know, it was a kind of intimate, vulnerable thing.
Mm.
And then you immediately made a joke about it, or made something funny so that I'm going to distract you from what I've just said, and let's laugh about it. 1, then we don't have to focus on it. 2, you can't say anything negative because I'm making a joke about it, rather than just going, ta-da.
Yeah, defense mechanisms at, like, in
And when
real time.
I asked you, you then went off on some whole like thinking, verbalizing path actually that had nothing to do with feeling it. It was a whole thinking path.
But
and
I did say to you,
I can see by your face, you know you do this.
But I did say to you that it wasn't really a feeling. It was more of a, it wasn't like emotion, like the emotions, but a feeling as in like, defensive. And
I know, but you still have to give yourself space to feel some, you know, if you've just been talking about, you know, something as a child.
So what I've been doing with that is to kind of like, because, you know, I was one of those people that couldn't tell you something. Like, I can't tell you what I'm feeling. Or how did that make you feel at 12 years old? I don't know. It was what it was.
12.
It was what it was. Okay, great. So we've got some vocabulary we need to work on. How I do that now to try and connect with what I'm actually feeling is to meditate. And I often, when I'm struggling with something, I do take myself away. I have to take myself away, not shut myself off so much, but take myself off away because I need to think it, feel it. So I'll be thinking about it and then I'll maybe meditate to try and actually connect with what it is, because I'm a very image driven person. Like something will pop up. Even when I do the conversation, I'll be like, oh, this image in my brain, we need to go that way. And what will happen is that will give it to me. If I'm struggling with something, it will let me know. I have cried during meditation, internally screamed in meditation in like rage or frustration or whatever. And what I found as well recently for like 2023 is that I felt a lot of resentment and stuff like that. Where's that coming from? What that's doing? What does that really mean? So yeah, I do a lot of that, but also it's a process of like having to go, right, okay, yeah, you've done enough thinking. Now you need to connect with how is it actually making you feel? Like, what is this feeling that you've got?
And that's amazing that you can do that for yourself. But then I guess the difference with a relationship is you have to do it with another person.
Yeah. And again, the new phase of I'm going to fuck up. I'm going to get it wrong.
You're not going to, like this language, I'm going to fuck up. You're not going to fuck up. You're not going to fuck up. You might not get it right every single time.
Yeah.
You're not going to fuck up.
Yeah.
I want you to start using less harsh language about yourself.
Less harsh language, but I know that. But it's also, it's you know, it's quite telling when you get something wrong, how the other person responds, right? So, you know, we're like, you know how someone really is when you tell them no. You know, like it's really telling what they're like when you tell them no. So that's all stuff I've still got to navigate, because with my friends, I'm there. With my family, it's a different story, and that's a little bit more complex because, you know, you have that whole like timeline of going from like being the child to being the adult and all the things in between. But with my friends, I'm there. The friends that I have, the close friends that I have will highlight if I'm being snappy, or I can highlight to them like, dude, what's going on? Because they're being snappy or whatever. And that the next bit is to try and do that with a partner. So that is just unknown, because I didn't do that with
anything.
No. So,
and that's the really scary thing.
Yeah, it is really scary. And whether it's successful in the first time, whether it's successful the second, third, or fifth, I've got to get there. And that will probably be something that I will talk about, because why not? Like, why not talk about it? Why not let people know that this shit is hard? It's not all like feel a big spark and, oh my God, I'd like skip off into the fucking sunset.
I think
relationships are hard work.
And I think that's where most of them fail. And people are like, oh, they shouldn't be hard work. But they are, because you are sharing your life and the most private things with another human. They know a lot about you. We've all got our own hang-ups that make us vulnerable in one way or another. And it's when people don't do the work and take it for granted that they don't work. But when you do the work, that's when actually the better relationship gets built. But too many people just float along or give up. And I'm also not saying you should just stick with a relationship and keep working if it doesn't work. I'm saying if there's a genuine connection between the two of you that's worth it. Yeah.
It's weird, because obviously even with all the conversations I've had, they've all been in relationships, have been in relationships, are in relationships, this, that, and the other, long-term relationships. And even with Dustin, who I never thought I would actually feel like I had anything in common with.
I find it so funny that he's the one that you related to so much.
Fucking weird. Even he has managed to do it. Like, there's hope for me. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not because I think like, oh God, I'm just that like unlovable. But even in later life, when you haven't really done that, it's, you're not like, it's not like that. You can't teach an old dog new trick. It will work, because I know that the last 10 years of me learning, growing, and evolving has been really hard and really messy and really chaotic, but also has been the best thing I've ever done.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I've never had such quality relationships with people until now, and I will do everything I can to keep hold of those. So and if I can do that with my friends, I can do that with a singular person, because I'm not polyamory, I'm not ethical non-monogamy, I'm not into sharing. I've been sharing since the fucking womb. I don't need to do any more of that. So just a one person.
I feel like you and yourself could be a whole series.
Yeah. Well, I think anybody could, if they're willing to be honest.
Yeah, true.
But what I've learned with the conversations is that people only give what they want to give.
I mean, that's always true, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can almost sit and say nothing and people will talk, or you can have every question under the sun and they won't answer.
Yeah, or they'll give you just enough or what have you. But all my sisters have are married. Do I feel a little bit like, oh, fucking hell, I should be married too? A little bit, but I drop that every day when I meet more people that aren't doing the milestone thing. Because let's face it, I would be reaching my end very soon, because that's how it used to be. And there's plenty more time. So yeah, just got to go out and do it.
There is, I know people who met their husbands in their mid-50s, which when I heard that, I was like, oh, nice. Okay. Yeah. Because you kind of have an idea of, oh, this is an age that I have to, and even me who questions things, there's still an idea of, it's kind of, if you're not doing it, you're done. No, actually, there's a shit ton of time.
And I think what the later generations are doing for us as well is giving freedom to living how you want to live and being who you want to be, how you want to be it, with the people that you want to do that with.
Yeah.
I think the more generations we get, the more free we're becoming and the less judgmental we're becoming about all those things. So yeah, there's still pockets of that, but with each generation, something's going right. So
I hope so.
Because Because I'm seeing more and more people just living how they want to live rather than hitting those.
Well, I've seen a lot of people kind of talking, especially when you see things on TikTok, women especially, are being more honest about what their experience in a family or marriage, or I don't want to necessarily just say marriage, but with children, with a male partner, and how actually a lot of people are not very fulfilled and a lot of people are taken for granted. I mean, did you see the one about the woman who held up a jigsaw and the guy punched it? Okay. Oh, it's so sad. It's a woman, and the caption is "my soon-to-be ex-husband." But at the time, it wasn't. She'd finished a jigsaw. She picked it up to show him, and he just punched it. And you could see, like, it's so heartbreaking. Her face, like, she tries to kind of smile. It's almost like an automatic reaction, just to kind of slightly smile. But you can see that she's heartbroken. And everyone's like, "Fucking leave his ass." And I think she does. And people are showing small things like that of how. Actually, there are a lot, not all, I hate having to say not all men, but there are a lot of situations where actually women are being honest about what their reality is. And it ain't all sunshine and rainbows. And actually people going, yeah, I'm actually okay by myself. I'm actually okay not doing that. And that's going to start changing things a lot.
Yeah, and that's actually something that I'm okay by myself. It's really interesting because some people have said, be all right on your own. You're happy on your own. And there's this disconnection because a lot of people, well, actually 100% of those people have never been in my situation. So they don't know what it's like to not have had that relationship, like that long-term mature, like not immature, but like long-term relationship. They don't know what that's like.
No.
And so it's like, that's great, but I don't know what that's like. And I would really like to experience it. So.
And you might do, and you might go, actually, I am all right on my own. But could you make that choice without having all the information?
Yeah, I think some people are out there that are absolutely fine with it, but then that maybe is because they're actually more on like the spectrum of like asexuality, a romantic spectrum than they are like me, who does want to have sex and does want to cuddle on the sofa. I'm such a cuddly person. No one would believe me, but I am.
No. Next time I see you, I'm just going to hug you and see how you react.
Go for it. It is more that I don't hug people that I don't trust. But people don't really understand. They don't get that concept.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why would
people
you
just think I don't like
space
hugging.
Of people that...
Yeah. People just don't think I like hugging. But it's not that. It's just I don't hug people I don't trust. And if you think about it, I spent a long time not trusting anyone. So I didn't hug anyone. And so, yeah.
I'm very physical with humans, like especially when it comes to like when I'm working at a race, which is all high energy. I just end up just like with a hand on someone. It's just like a physical, like there's a physical connection here. And then once I get comfortable with people, I'm like, yoink.
Yeah, no, I am actually quite physically affectionate. Just, yeah. I think that would be something that people don't expect. And I think they will find that really hard to see.
Why?
Like that, just like in their brain, me being physically affectionate with someone that isn't a child, because I'm very affectionate with the kids consensually.
Of course.
Well, no, because you know how that some people are like, no, give me a hug.
Oh, right, yeah.
You know that like, and you're like, they don't want to give you a hug. So like, I have that with one of my nephews. He's not always a hugger, and so we like, I allow he makes the call. And I'm absolutely fine with that because it says absolutely nothing about our relationship.
Actually, no, it does say a lot about your relationship. No, it says that you're creating a safe space for him to say what he wants and ask for what he needs, which is huge.
Yeah. But I think people will, be quite surprised by it because they don't see me being physically affectionate with people. And so I think, people maybe not struggle, but will be a little bit like, okay, this is new.
I like it.
So, but no, I am very like in that space. But it's been a long time. Yeah.
Oh, dude.
Shall we wrap up?
Yeah.
Let's do it, because I feel like you got a lot out of me today. Yeah.
Same time next week.
Yeah. Brilliant. And it's all free therapy. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You've done the therapy. Thank you very much.